We're live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. This is your home of fearless, credible and independent journalism. Our lead stories this hour. Some Ghanaians fear a return to severe inconsistencies. A new DUMSOR schedule to be published by the Electricity Company of Ghana even before it announces it. We'll hear their reasons. We have details as the ECG finally announces its plans to publish the much anticipated DUMSOR schedule, as we hear from voices on the street. Saving a party's dwindling fortunes, we hear from a member of the NDC's Council of Elders who is asking National Executive of the party for details on how many votes its presidential candidate John Mahama obtained in the 2020 polls. We hear him as pollster Ben Efson, who is casting doubt on the influence of cadres, mostly making these demands within the party. And the extent of the impact of road accident on our health systems. We tell you how an accident can deprive you of the much needed health care, leading to even more deaths. And the pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. Join us on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. We're also streaming live on YouTube. My name is Gifty Andropia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. The Electricity Company of Ghana is set to release a DUMSOR timetable as it announces planned outages from 10th May to the 17th. According to CEO of the company, Ajman Budu, this has become necessary due to ongoing works on the Pokwase bulk supply point. Gridco had earlier warned of imminent power cuts upon request by contractors working on the KASOA and Pokwase substations. Well, today, the request has been made. Listen to CEO of ECG, Kwame Ajman Budu, who disclosed this during a tour of the Pokwase bulk supply point, led by the Energy Minister.
As we have already stated, we are coming out of a planned schedule whereby, the areas that are going to be affected have been grouped into 4, Group A, B, C, and D. And we schedule in such a way that no single customer will see the outage throughout. For the 8 days, you will see probably a 12-hour outage in the daytime. The next 3 days, you will see outage in the nighttime. We will rotate it so that it doesn't affect customer throughout. So that's our plan.
What is necessitating this outage that you mean?
All this outage is due to connecting the Gridco line to the national grid, so that we can use our part of the controls system to supply power to our customers.
Which areas will be affected?
Like I said, NSAWAM, Pokwase, Bawe, it's a lot of areas.
When is this start? How soon?
From 10th of May till 17th of May. That's where the outages will occur. But the actual commission will happen on 31st of May. And then 1 week later, ECG will start loading our feeders.
Well, Information Minister Kojo Opon Nkrumah has been charging the contractors to stick to the date for completion of the project.
It's good to hear and to see the engineers explain to us that they are on track and that they will finish this particular project and tie in by the May timeline that they are looking at. But it's also good to understand the broader set of works that are ongoing. That's what's going on here. That's what we did last week in Tema. I think maybe next week or next 2 weeks we'll go to KASOA, then we'll go to Kumasi to see the full breadth of the upgrade works that are ongoing. Each one has its own different timeline. The hope is that they will be able to complete all of the works by the times that they have set for themselves, so that the Ghanaian at home or at work gets the full benefit. It is to occasion that benefit that all of these works are going on, but we must be clear to follow up and ensure that they deliver on the timelines so that we all get the benefits. Governments over the years and this administration are clear in their mind that this is an essential service that must be provided by government. The private sector has a role. That's why you have independent power producers. So they produce, Gridco onboards everything and does the distribution. and then the off-takers like ECG or Netco, etc., do the distribution within the local communities. These are various parts of the value chain. They've worked well so far, albeit with its own set of challenges. Today we're seeing something that should have been done years back, that is investing in an upgrade of the system. But that investment will occasion some inconvenience. And I think what we need to do is to understand the roadmap for the works and to bear with the inconvenience. I mean, take the Pokwasi interchange right here, or take the Tema Motorway interchange. During the works, there were inconveniences. But because we all understood what was being done and when it to be completed, and therefore the benefits, we bore with it. Today we are happy to drive on it. I think it's the same thing that is happening here, and we would walk on that path.
Kojo Ponkuma is the Information Minister. Meanwhile, CEO of Gridco, Jonathan Amakumba, has also been explaining that these outages are necessary because these projects ought to be completed.
If there is a human intervention, then it means that the automatic devices may not have recognized that there is a fault. That is only when there will be human intervention. These things have been set automatically so that when they see the problem, they have to take, as he said, the machine, which is a transformer or a line off, in order not to damage the equipment. These equipment are very expensive. One transformer costs not less than $2 million. And if it gets damaged, it will take 1 year minimum to go and manufacture and bring a new one. So we want you to bear with us. Whenever your power goes off, know that there is a problem. And the problem is being attended to. That is why it has been taken off. And it is not a human intervention. Most of the time, it is these devices that you see plastered all over here that sense, and they do it in milliseconds. They act faster than the human being. In milliseconds. Sometimes it's microseconds. You cannot detect with your eye. Or, I mean, my reaction, it will not be as fast as that. That's why I say that it is only when they fail to act that a human being would go to act. By then, there might have been some disaster that have been caused because it was not properly taken off.
As the boss for Gridco there, well, some of you have already been reacting to this announcement. You fear, or the voices we're hearing tell us they fear a return to the dreaded days of DUMSOR as it pertained. The last time it happened, there were a lot of inconsistencies when it came to sticking to the schedule. Listen.
I believe that, you know, for a very long time, people have been agitating that it's DUMSOR, but government is saying it's not DUMSOR. Finally, if they've released timetable, then it means that they've come to terms with the fact that it is DUMSOR. And they have to begin doing things that will make us believe in them. Because telling us that, oh, I will off your light at 5, so prepare. If you have a business doing, you know what to do. If you are a tailor or you are somebody who deals with light, you know what to do before the light goes off. But they're telling us that, oh, it's not DUMSOR, it's a technical problem. So if finally they say they've released a timetable, we thank God. It's a step in the right direction. We only pray that whatever they are doing, they will be quick about it, and then within a short possible time, we'll get our lights back.
When they give the announcement that maybe we are going to off or we are going to give last out, light will not be in for some days, it doesn't go like that. Sometimes the lights will come all right. Sometimes you are unaware, you will not be aware, and then the lights will go off. You will try to ask to find out, to know the reason. You wouldn't be able to know. So that is our problem here. Because when the light goes off and you have some items in the fridge or whatever, because you are not aware to prepare yourself or not to even put the items in the fridge, definitely the items will spoil. That's how it affects the business people too. So that is my point of view. Timetable is good? Well, it's good because when they announce you that today or tomorrow you people should get prepared, there will not be light. That one, you also make your mind and also prepare your items very well. And here's the case, sometimes they'll tell you tomorrow or be aware next week there'll be lights out. There will not be light for you. And all of a sudden, though you agree that you are aware, at the time you'll be expecting the light will not come. You understand me? Sometimes they will say it's because of the problem in ECG, that is why. And meanwhile, it shouldn't be like that. Let us be aware that this is what is happening, so that when we all prepare our mind towards it, it will help all of us and it will not affect the timetable. If only they'll go according to the timetable, we shan't have any problem. If they don't go according to the timetable, that is what will affect the business. I mean, it will affect all of us. You understand me? Look at the lights how they have been given. Sometimes when they give the light off, within some short or seconds, the light will come again. And it affects a lot of things. That is why we are having this fire breakouts and all of those things. You understand? So if only what they have actually decided to do and they will go according to the timetable, we shall have a problem.
DUMSOR that we are experiencing, it's about them to tell us the truth. This is the problem. But always they give us another this thing. It's not true that they are telling us. You understand? It's DUMSOR. Because Mahama time is the same thing that we was facing. So it's the same thing, nothing has changed. So it's DUMSOR that we are experiencing now.
So you don't believe the timetable? You think it's DUMSOR, right?
The timetable, at that time, no, they give us the timetable like this one. So what is the difference? And brother, if you are MPP and the truth is there, you have to say it. This time around, we shouldn't follow that thing, say I'm an MPP, so if the truth is there, I shouldn't tell. No, it's not like that again. You have to speak the truth and be free. Nowadays, money is not there. To buy generator and all that kind of thing, it will definitely affect me.
Maybe some of us, the students learning, it can cause a lot of problem because if there's light off, and moreover, some of us, we are doing some small businesses. Maybe we use light, something like cold store and all that. But as the light goes off, there is no way that you can get light to be selling all those things. And maybe you have stocks in there. So if the light went off, maybe those things can destroy. So that one too, it costs.
Oh, me, I'm not happy about what is going on in the Ghana because that means the politicians, they align us. Because when they want the power, they would say anything that they want. Oh, this thing has stopped, but now we are still in that situation. So it means me right now, next 2024, I'm not going to vote because those people we are voting for, they are not doing our needs, they cannot take care of us because we pay all taxes, but still, we are still in the same condition. So sometimes I don't understand.
Well, some rather nonchalant people there talking to Kofi Ejeyi. Let's get on Zoom now. Executive Director for the Kumasi Institute of Technology, Energy and Environment, Ishmael Ejekumhene, is joining me. Mr. Ejekumhene, thank you very much for your time. Good afternoon. It looks like you're muted.
I am not.
Right.
Can you hear me?
I do hear you. I do hear you. Were you surprised when you heard this afternoon that we were going to get a schedule for at least the 10th and between the 10th and the 17th of next month?
No, I wasn't, and I thought that was what we've been asking for. That there has to be a system in place that would allow people to know when the lights are going out and when the lights are going to stay on. So I wasn't surprised, except that this is for a specific period, and it's not even until the 10th of May that they are talking about. So it means that for this period till that time, any outage will not be an announced outage. It wouldn't be a planned outage, and that's what we should be looking at. The specific time frame they gave to us is actually in May, and I don't think they told us that the lights are not going to go off until that time. So yes, it's for the specific window that they know they're going to do the transfer of the load, and this is in May. But as to whether between now and May there wouldn't be outages, I'm not sure they guaranteed us that. But any announcement that actually tells you that you can do A and not do B because you're going to have outage at a certain time, it's good for the consumer, and it's better than nothing when you are there and then suddenly the light goes.
Is it clear to you? Because initially the communication was that we should expect this to end somewhere in September. some parts of the country is suspected to end somewhere in December. So with this schedule we're hearing of in May, does it provide it for any clarity? I mean, for someone like you, from where you sit, whether or not this could continue that would have a schedule even after May, all the way into September?
I think it's been clear from the beginning that for the problems that we are experiencing in Accra, it's more likely going to end in July. And that statement also came out, that date came out from the announcement today that they are very optimistic that come July, the problem in Accra would have been resolved because the Pokwasi substation would have been completed. The other timelines that are being given are in respect of the rest of the country, especially the issues around Kumasi and the northern part of the country. So there are two different timelines that we're talking about. And the September timelines, my understanding is that it's when every congestion in the transmission network would have been resolved. But for the Accra one, once the Pokwasi substation is ready, we've always been told that the Accra problems would have been solved by then. So July and that timeline, that time was actually, date was actually repeated today. So I'm quite sure that, and knowing what I know, the Pokwasi project is very much on course. So by July, it's very likely that the problems in Accra, we're not going to experience those outages anymore.
Well, the concerns that people have raised, those that we went out to talk to have raised, is that back then when we were in our DUMSOR days, that there were inconsistencies, severe inconsistencies in the schedule. So there are times that people are expecting the power to be on, there are times they're expecting it to be off, and it's the other way around. Is there a way that you can talk us through ensuring consistency in this schedule that we're expecting?
Well, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to talk about ensuring consistency because some of the things, like you heard the GRIDCO board saying, some of the decisions, in fact, some of the outages are done by the machines themselves, because he talked about microseconds. Because as soon as there is any instability at all, the system will detect that. And if you don't act, the system will act on your behalf, and then so as to ensure that no damages are okay. They're okay. So I think sometimes we shouldn't forget that what these utilities do, what they do basically is that they sell power, they sell electricity. So it's in their interest as much as it is in our interest that the power is on. So I'm not too sure they will take it off when it shouldn't be off. So if they tell you they will do 12 hours and within the 12 hours or even before the 12 hours the lights go off, then it's because there's another problem that they probably didn't anticipate. The problem is that it is not only the transmission network that has a problem. We have problems at the distribution side. So sometimes, even when GRIDCO is giving power to ECG or NETCO, I don't think that you can guarantee that you get power as and when you need it. So I think the narrative should be clear. Sometimes not all the problems that we are encountering, that is as a result of GRIDCO's problem. Some of them is purely distribution problem. And the ECG problem, the NETCO problems have been with us. We haven't solved them. So what they are not doing at this stage is letting us understand that even when the GRIDCO problem is solved, we still have what used to be called light-off. Those light-off, they've been with us ever since I've been a Ghanaian. And it's because there's a problem, always there's a problem with the distribution network that we haven't quite fixed. So I think once they give us the timeline, the timetable, the best is for them to stick to that so that people will be able to plan their life. And I agree with them. It's frustrating especially if you've gone on for 12 hours or something like that and you're expecting power for another 12 hours. You plan your time within that period. And within that period, too, the lights go on. We've experienced that in the past. So I hope, and this coming from the transmission side, I think there will be a lot more reliability in terms of whatever timelines they give to us and the timetable they give to us, because it's easier controlling the transmission side than the distribution side, where there's several networks involved, unlike the transmission network that is pretty much, I should say, easier to regulate and control.
This will be my final question, and it's interesting. I think you mentioned a bit of that, or you answered a bit of that, but so I was going to ask you about whether or not, in terms of looking at the bigger picture, will the time frame within which we have to make this sacrifice so that we fix this problem that has to be fixed anyway, fixed our bigger problems? You know, like you said, we've had light outs since you know, you've been a Ghanaian, you said. Will this add or subtract from our fixing of the bigger problem when it comes to our power generation and distribution all put together?
Not quite, because you see, unfortunately, this problem that we're having now, it's being caused by a segment of the value chain that historically has never given us problems. I mean, we've always had the transmission segment doing its work. So previously, it's either generation or distribution. So once we fix the transmission problem, which probably shouldn't have occurred in the first place, because normally if the projects that they're working on, if they had gone according to schedule, we probably wouldn't have encountered this problem. But in relation to, thankfully, for some years now, we do have excess capacity. So for those two sides, we should be good. But the problems at the other end, the people who interface directly with you and I, the distribution companies, they can't guarantee you that even if all the Greek coast problems are solved, you have uninterrupted power. The networks will need to be made a little bit more smart. It has to be smarter. They need to change. A lot of investments is required. You recall that when there was an attempt to bring the private sector into the distribution, you heard the kinds of money that we were talking about. Even the PDS people, the PSP was actually supposed to invest a minimum of over $500 million over 5 years. Those are the kinds of money that I don't think ECG has now to invest in those systems. There's a reason why that investment was required. Old transformers will have to be changed. Some of the power lines will probably have to be changed. They need to install some technologies that will allow them to monitor so many things, including power thefts and all of that. So I don't think this problem will bring our problem to an end. As we speak right now, the government has told everybody in this country right from 2019 that the energy sector has a problem, and there's an energy sector recovery program that is being implemented. That is where we should be looking at, because the problems are mounting by the day, and I don't think just fixing the transmission will solve the problem. I mean, the energy sector is actually in a lot more problems than just having transmission challenges.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for your time this afternoon. Executive Director of KITE there, Ishmael Ajikumhene, helping us with his perspective on the issue. Well, I'm curious to know how you're dealing with this and how you intend to deal with it. Are you going to invest in generators? Are you going to invest in the solar system? I mean, we know that even though we've been giving a time frame of May, that we've also been told to expect, well, May, July, we've still been told to expect some more outages as we go along. So will you invest in any of those? Jump on our social media handles. Let's hear what your thoughts are. You're watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and Apia. I'll take a quick break here. We'll be right back.
The wound has not healed yet, and Idriso is still in pain. His worst pain, however, is in how he is going to live the rest of his life with a disability.
I feel sad because now I don't know whether I'm going to have a like artificial leg to walk like a normal, or I'm going to use a crutches. And I feel sad because I can't do other things like I'm doing before. But because I lost my leg. And I'm always thinking, oh, Charlie, how am I going to do like that? So I always feel sad, but I keep it.
Inside this ward are a number of other young men. Most of them have been here for more than the 21 days patients usually spend here, though some of them are fit to go home. They are stuck because they cannot pay their bills. The nurse manager here, Rose Boahin, points to a number of such patients.
Since I came here, the least bill that I've seen is about 5,000 Ghana cedis. And it's not easy for them at all. Most of the men here, they don't have health insurance. Most of them, when you ask, they say, oh, me, I'm fit, I don't get sick, so what's the need for health insurance? So when they find themselves here, then they realize that it's better to have the health insurance.
Well, those are excerpts from our recent documentary of and it shows you the people living with the pain of road accident. As nearly 800 Ghanaians die in the country in 90 days, many more people have to live with serious injuries and disabilities for life. Many of those people have to be treated in the country's hospitals, putting pressure on the limited resources available. Well, the Ghana Health Service says road crashes remain a major challenge to the service. Joining us on Zoom is Dr. Samuel Kaba Akoria. He's the Director, Institutional Care Division of the Ghana Health Service. Hello, Doc. Good afternoon. Okay, I hear you now. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
I do hear you now, Doc. So for you, for you at the Ghana,
to you and to all your listeners.
Thank you. For you at the Ghana Health Service, how significant would you say road accidents are when it comes to the limitations that it places on your ability to deliver quality health service?
All right. Thanks so very much. I think this is one big important issue that you are bringing out today. Road traffic accidents have become a silent killer of many citizens and major cause of disability, especially the children, the youth, and persons of middle age in Ghana. Road traffic accidents now constitute among the first 10 causes of sickness in Ghana, and specifically in the third place when you add it to other non-communicable diseases. I'll give you an example. From January to October just 2020, statistics prove that we experienced about 12,100 RTA, road traffic accidents, with involvement of about 20,400 vehicles. And out of that, we had 2,080 people injured with various degrees from mild to moderate to severe, right? And over the years, we have noticed a gradual increase, and we've noticed that most people are dying out of road traffic accidents. And worldwide, it is estimated that it consumes about 3% of country's GDP. And in Ghana, we have estimated that it consumes about 1.6% of our GDP. That translates to about $160 million annually we are losing just on road traffic accidents. So when you look at these statistics, you will understand the economic and human resource and social impact of road traffic accidents on the health and on the country system as a whole. For instance, we usually say that the children and the youth are the future of this country. That is true, but we are losing our children and the youth through road traffic accidents. So that definitely leads to kind of retard our country's development, and it's an issue we need to start looking at, because the next probably minister or president of this country could die through road traffic accident as a youth who is coming up, and we will be losing a significant person. So I think it's very important to look at it. Thank you.
Let's try and link it directly to how it impedes your ability to provide healthcare for people. So we've had the Ghana Health Service, the Medical Association indicates that there are times when you actually need a bed to take care of somebody else, but it's taken over by accident victims or by accident patients. I mean, do the linkage for us and make it a bit clearer for us.
All right. So thank you so very much. Let me outline some few things point by point so that you and I and people listening to us will understand. There is a huge pressure on us when it comes to road traffic accident. The first one is infrastructure. Now, if you even look, National Road Safety Commission, they are building they're putting some health posts along highways with possibility of high road traffic accidents. That is infrastructure need. Ghana Health Service is assisting with human resource. We are building hospitals because of these occurrences. Now, if you build a hospital, now you have to equip it. And the kind of equipment you need for road traffic accident patient is not just any kind of ordinary bed. Beds that are used in intensive care unit, one sometimes goes for almost $30,000 per bed. Ventilators, we need CT scan, MRI, machines, very expensive to be able to do all the necessary tests they will deserve as patients. Then you move to logistics, blood supply. Every day we talk about lack of blood in our system. People who are involved in road traffic accident, there is always a high demand for blood for them. Then you go to the gloves, because they are bleeding, you change your gloves frequently. Syringes, medication is very expensive. When you come to specialties like neurosurgery and orthopedic surgery, when they lose or break their limbs, you need to put some implants. Those implants are very expensive. Then you come to the human resource itself, where you're talking about the various category of medical personnel we need. So you need neurosurgeons, you need plastic surgeons, you need intensive care specialists. And let me tell you something. When you get a critical patient in an intensive care ward, you need one nurse per patient. So 3 nurses in a day, just for one patient. Multiply that by the number of patients you might be having. And you see the number of people we need to be able to take care of these accidented people, whom if we have some kind of level of personal responsibility, we could have reduced about 80% of that. Now, moving from human resource, we talk about transport. When you talk about road traffic accident and you talk about its management, you've got to look at it holistically. So you have the pre-hospital services, the volunteers, the community level, and then the emergency medical service that in Ghana we call ambulance service. You're going to provide ambulances with well-trained people. All this is a lot of money that we pour into that. Then you come to the treatment itself. I've spoken of the implant, and you find out that most of the time, these patients, they stay for a longer period of time than any other person. They put stress on the health staff, depending on the time it occurs. I get called around 10 p.m. to come to Rich Hospital, for instance, because of accidents. And then you leave the theater around 1 a.m., then you drive home. That is the implication, you know. Then when you move from just the treatment, let's take, for instance, when now they need recovery, rehabilitation. Now you need physiotherapists, you need occupational therapists. Then we also provide what we call assistive devices. If you lose your limb, we need to give you prostheses. Below the knee amputation, for instance, it goes for about $10,000, just for you to have an idea. And government produces this at the Limb Fitting Center in the Ghana Health Service headquarters and subsidizes it for the patient. And that is a whole lot of money that we input there. Then you have people who become vegetative, and we are talking about palliative care. So they stay in the hospital for a long time, they develop bed sores, and treatment of infection is a very big issue, because then you need antibiotics that are very expensive, and these patients, most of the time, they cannot afford. If you take Meronin, for instance, you're talking about spending about 1,000 Ghana cedis in a day just on antibiotics. And as is well said, sometimes they do not even have health insurance. Then you move from there, you look at the psychological impact for the family, for the health staff, and for the patient himself. So, for instance, then you are talking about, if the person is a health staff, there's lots of productivity, or any kind of worker is a young person going to work now, he loses his job, no productivity, is in the hospital, family have to rearrange their schedule to visit, take care of the patient, and just imagine if that person is the breadwinner of a family. It's a huge disaster, because then he loses his job, then the family, his school fees and other things cannot be catered for. So these are the direct impact that we do have, and I think people will start to appreciate if you continue this good work you are doing by making it.
Yeah, I mean, this afternoon I've been able to appreciate the statistical breakdown that you've given us, Doc. Let's wrap this up with how you think, and maybe let's paint it a bit clearer. It is clear indeed, I think, but let's break it down further, if you may, to our viewers. How will the reduction in road traffic accident benefit the other part of our healthcare system?
All right. So, for instance, I just outlined that we're spending about $165 million just on road traffic accident issues. Okay, if we had that money, if we are able through preventive and promotive activities to prevent about 80% of our accidents, and that money is geared towards other issues of the health system, let's say maternal and child health, we would have been covering a whole lot and would have improved the quality of services. If we look at you just spoke about the bed availability, the syndrome of no bed we had. I'll come to that in a while when it has to do with some of the issues, some of the measures we've put in place to make sure that no patient gets turned away. But now, an accidental patient who stays in a hospital for 1 month will now take that bed, which could have been given to another patient, and we want to even make the turnaround time for our hospitals very quick. But with accident patients, you cannot do that. They stay as long as they have to stay. And we make sure they stay for that time to take good care of them. And if they develop infection, it's even worse. So if we are able to cut down road traffic accidents, then actually we would have been saving a lot of money in providing potable water in all our health facilities, in putting up infrastructure, more infrastructure, bringing up equipment for infection prevention and control. We would have been able to procure more items towards improving other sectors of our health service.
I know this is totally, well, maybe not totally, but somehow out of your league. But is there anything that the service, the Ghana Health Service, intends to do when it comes to the reduction of these accidents on our roads? Is there a plan like this?
Yeah, realistically, we've been doing. It's not that we want to do. We've been doing since the establishment of the Ghana Health Service, and we keep intensifying it. Let me start by even outlining that accident and emergencies are part of the 6 indicators of the sector-wide approach to health. And when you come to clinical service delivery, it's number 1 in priority on our list. So in 2011, we developed the Ministry of Health Accident and Emergency Policy guideline, and we are implementing it to the letter. And the first thing we are doing, all regional hospitals and all district hospitals, they do have functional 24-hour emergency service, which means that no patient can be turned away without at least receiving first aid. If you do remember, we had the syndrome of no bed, which also helped us actually address and strengthen some of these issues. So any patient who gets to the hospital, any Ghana Health Service facility, at least you get the first aid. The next thing is that you don't have to be the one struggling to get to the next level of care. It is the hospital that organizes and coordinates and makes sure that you get referred. And then they make sure that you get an ambulance and you get appropriately referred to the next level. The next thing we are doing is to come together with other stakeholders like Road Traffic Commission and Road Safety Commission, the MTTU of the police, the National Ambulance Service, to come together to look at how best we can comprehensively tackle these issues of road traffic accidents. Our health promotion unit is also coming out with preventive adverts on how best we can tackle this issue. We have actually gone ahead to strengthen our referral system so that when people get accidents, they move smoothly from one level to the next. We've gone ahead to even sign some MOUs with other agencies like CHAG so that there will be a similar service delivery and the private sector. So patients can easily be transferred from one facility to the next so that there wouldn't be any challenges and burden to the patient and family, but rather is the health system that should be looking at it comprehensively to make sure that these things happen. So we are actually doing a lot when it comes to road traffic accidents, and we are making sure that every health facility has a triage area where when you come in as an accident patient, you get triaged and you get resuscitated immediately. We have within those setup, we got all the necessary drugs that you need within the first 24 hours. And nobody even would ask you for health insurance or not, because by law, by rule we've put is that the first 24 hours, any individual who gets into our health facility should have that attention until his relatives come after 48 hours when the patient is recovered. We wouldn't ask you bring money before we treat you. You get treated before we even talk of anything about money. So these are things we are doing and we'll keep doing, keep perfecting it as much as possible within our possible means. Yeah.
I really enjoyed this conversation. It gives me a very clear, very clear picture of just what we're losing and just what burden we're putting on our health systems by sometimes our own carelessness on the road. Doc, thank you so much for your time. That's a doc.
Let me just, if you could allow me, I'll just say this.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, government is doing so much to support the care of the patient. But one thing we have realized is that we are lacking that individual responsibility and collective responsibility. Government cannot do it all. It is left for us as citizens to understand that when you drink and drive, you get an accident. If you are in a throttle and they are over speeding and you don't tell the driver, you don't call the driver's attention, when he gets an accident, you die. It is our responsibility as individual citizens to understand that you need to get the appropriate driving license. You just don't get because you buy a car, you can purchase a car, you get a license from ABNC or you don't have any and you just start driving. We have come to realize that anytime there is a new road constructed, people just drive anyhow, they overspeed. And you find out that you have more accidents on our paved road than those that are not. It is not a reason not to pave our road. We got to do that. But when we do that, when things are put in place, then we have to also be responsible. I don't think the preventive is far better than curative, because I operate on road traffic accidents. Just last 2 weeks, I did the same. People who break their necks and they cannot move their limbs. Young people. Motorcycles, you see, they overtake the red light. Nobody says nothing. They get hit down. Then they come to the hospital. They can't afford x-ray. They can't afford surgical implants. And it is causing us a burden. And that individual responsibility and collective responsibility is something I want to highlight.
Right.
And private sector involvement is also good. And one very important thing is for you, the media, we plead with you to give more time into road traffic accident campaign. Unfortunately, COVID-19 derailed delayed most of our intention when it comes to emergency services on road traffic accident. But we're coming back to them, and we'll need your support to do all year-round campaign against road traffic accident. We will be reducing about 80% of the accident. Our children will live longer, our youth will live longer, and we'll have a better country. Thank you.
Hopefully. Doc, thank you very much. That's Dr. Samuel Akorie Akaba there. He's the Director of Institutional Care Division of the Ghana Health Service. They thoroughly put together information now. So you know that we're losing about $165 million because of accidents. And if we can be a little more responsible on our roads, a little more defensive in our driving, perhaps we can stop some of these things. Now, prosecutors handling the case of two teenagers alleged to have killed a 10-year-old boy for money rituals say they need more time to determine the actual ages of the suspects. They therefore urge the Ofankor District Court to remand the teenagers into police custody as their investigations continue. This was granted by the court presided over by His Lordship Samuel Kwesi Ejei. The teenagers have been slapped with charges including that of murder over the alleged act that has left residents of KASOA Lamte in a state of shock. A spokesperson for the family of the murdered boy, Samed Akalilu, wants the police to conclude investigations immediately to enable the trial to commence.
So it is pointing to the fact that the case may delay. Of course, we all know that justice delay is an affront to the rule of law. But we trust in the due process, we trust in the police, we trust that they're going to do a good job. But for us as a family, we felt the basic issues of ages would have been rectified by now, and that could have cleared the air and the way. But we still trust in the due process, and we hope that as early as possible, all these preliminary issues and that are going to prevent expeditious trial will be kept or will be found or solved. Then we can hit the road as early as possible. The family needs justice. We cannot get Ismail Mensah back, but we feel that there should be expeditious trial The more the case drags, the more a lot of emotions are still involved, resources are expended, and all of that. And so we just want to see a finality and a closure of this matter as early as possible. And I think that the family will go asleep. And the rule of law, I'm sure, would have opted for a different option. We are a family of law-believing people, and that is why we have rested our case to the competent security agencies of this country, the state actors that must act like the court. As a family, if you go back to the community, you realize that whilst we are grieving, whilst we are mourning, we have not done anything to indicate that we would want to, if you like, avenge, because we don't believe in taking the law into our own hands as a family. Our belief is that Ghana is ruled by competent laws. The 1992 Constitution, the Criminal Procedure Code, and other laws are enough. And so for us to say we want to take the law into our own hands, that is out of the case. So if it's because of our family, I can assure the good people of this country that if we did not believe in the police and the court, we wouldn't have come here in the first place. So just keeping them there is also for their safety.
Sameda Khalilu speaks for the family of the 10-year-old boy Ishmael. The case has been adjourned to May 4. Still within KASOA, the Central Region Police have arrested some persons suspected to have gunned down a businessman at Opekuma, a suburb of KASOA. Richard Kojonyako is our Central Region correspondent, and he's joining me now via Zoom. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Gifty.
Richard, what do we know?
Well, so what we do know is that the police command says it has arrested one person that is in connection with the killing of a businessman. The businessman was on a motorbike and was sending some unspecified amounts of money to a business partner. And these persons that were on the motorbike, a royal black motorbike, gunned him down and then took the sums of money from him. And so police proceeded to the scene and then began the investigations. And yesterday, the police effected the arrest of this man. He is yet to be put before court. And so the police say they are rolling out measures within the KASOA space to ensure that criminals are really clamped down to reduce the incident of crime in the KASOA area.
Richard, I'm not quite sure if you have this information, but do the family, because Maxwell did speak to the wife of the deceased. I don't know if you have had any reactions coming in from that side, you know, the residents and the people who are concerned about this.
No, okay, I do not have reactions from the family yet. This was a press briefing by the Central Regional Police Command in connection with this killing. And in fact, they addressed the press on two basic issues, and the other has to do with another person who is also printing fake currencies, dollars and then a Ghana cedi notes. And so the police also had intelligence and then went to effect the arrest of that person. And so the crime situation in KASOA is still fragile. It's something that the police think about, and they say that they are rolling out a series of measures, including measures that will involve all residents and the media to ensure that they address this particular scenario, fluid situation that is going on in KASOA.
Did they mention when they will take these issues or these cases to court? Did they mention at the press briefing?
Well, they said that he is yet to be put before court, but they are still processing and investigating, and sooner than later they will put the person to court. Now, and that would be with regard to our laws, because the person wouldn't have to stay behind bars for 48 hours.
Richard, thank you very much for this update. Richard Kojonyako has been monitoring a press briefing by the Central Region Police, which is saying this afternoon that they've made some arrests relating to a broad daylight killing that happened in Opekuma in KASOA, and another person they picked up for allegedly printing fake currencies. Now, the NSAWAM prisons is a hotbed for transmission of many diseases like tuberculosis because of congestion. Unfortunately, the NSAWAM Regional Hospital lacks the necessary equipment to provide effective health care to the prison inmate. The challenges, together with the lack of space, have had negative consequences on the health of staff as well as the prison inmate. Judith Awachitando was at the hospital and reports prison officials believe a bigger hospital outside the prison should be considered immediately.
Over 3,000 inmates doing time for various criminal activities and some on remand pending sentence. While some live in guilt of their crimes, others are left to drown in bitterness as they rot in cells for crimes they claim to have no knowledge about. In here, many freedoms are curtailed as required by the law. That aside, inmates are compelled to cram in very limited space. The NSAWAM prison was originally built to contain 851 inmates, yet accommodates more than 3 times the number of inmates required. Inmates share very limited air due to congestion and are therefore exposed to many diseases. Just this week, the prison's hospital has recorded 2 positive cases of tuberculosis. DSP Benedict Osei-Teria, the medical laboratory scientist of the prison hospital, is not happy about this development.
Just this week we had 2 positives. So it tells you how serious it is. You see, somebody getting we getting a positive in prison has a lot of ramifications on the public. You might not know when the person is even discharging. That's one. And then the person also reinfects a lot of people based on their sleeping conditions. We are sleeping in our own beds, maybe one on a bed, but these people are crowded.
Even with the many cases of tuberculosis being recorded in the prisons, the hospital lacks a gene expert analyzer, which means samples collected from inmates would have to be sent all the way to the government hospital, delaying diagnosis.
This morning I sent 24 samples to the government hospital. That same gene expert analyzer, is having 4 chambers and runs a sample for 2 hours. So that 24 samples divided by the 4 chambers and then 2 hours at a time. You can see that means the 24 samples will be run like by Tuesday or maybe Monday. And then the gene expert analyzer at the hospital is not only serving the prisons, it's also serving the NSAWAM municipality. So there's a lot of pressure on the analyzer.
Sadly, inmates are not the only people battling limited space. In fact, the entire prison regional hospital, which serves not only the inmates but also outsiders, has been in need of a bigger space for a while now. The outpatient department of the hospital also doubles as an ambulance center and a consulting room. The hospital's matron, ASP Osei-Teria, explains this is a big challenge to the hospital.
You know, OPD is supposed to be OPD, and you're supposed to have a separate accident and emergency center. And because we also don't have enough office accommodation, we are using the same office as consulting rooms. In fact, 3 consulting rooms here, for that matter, 3 different consulting with 3 PAs performing at the same time. So really, it's a challenge. We need enough space.
The situation at the hospital's ward is not any different.
This is the hospital ward here at the NSAWAM prison. Although this ward is well furnished and organized, one of its biggest challenges is that there are just 50 beds servicing over 3,000 inmates. Inmates here are calling on government to come to their aid.
We are too many here and it disturbs me a lot. We don't have a big hospital to accommodate us. When we are taken to the government hospital, we have to wait for long hours because other patients from outside the prison also use the facility.
Another problem, officers now,
The hospital is calling on government to help build a bigger hospital outside the prison.
In fact, we need specialists who can render quality health care for people, because the prison is not a condemned environment for them to die. They are supposed to be reformed and rehabilitated. So if we need to reform them, we need to rehabilitate them, the first principal thing is they have to be healthy, because it takes a healthy mind and body to undergo reformation and rehabilitation. So we actually need a prison hospital outside where we can have all these specialists coming into play to make sure we provide an efficient and holistic health care for the inmates.
A prison is a place for character reform, and although some might be serving life sentences, they are still human, have rights, and so deserve good treatment. Judith Awatretando, Joy News.
Judith there. Editor of the Daily Dispatch, Ben Efson, says the cadres of the opposition National Democratic Congress do not wield the influence they did in the past. He is doubtful that their current calls will make a difference in the direction that the party is headed to. So he was responding to views expressed by former Attorney General Dr. Benjamin Kumbo, who was speaking after some founding members of the NDC organized a forum over the weekend where they called for an investigation into the reasons for the party's 2020 loss before candidates are chosen for the next polls. Here is Dr. Benjamin Kumbo speaking on PM Express with Evans Mensah.
Your national constitution provides for probity and accountability in its preamble. Article 55 requires that every political party in this country must operate along democratic lines, respect in consonance with the constitution and existing laws. When you have this arrangement that has been lifted and put right in the NDC constitution, why can't people ask for accountability? But you see, the question accountability is narrowly interpreted by people to think about finance, profit and loss. That is not it. Political accountability is vertical and horizontal. That you account down to the grassroots and account across.
Accounting for what exactly?
Accounting for your stewardship. And the reason why issues of accountability is being raised, people don't know today what exactly are the collated figures from 2020 elections. I can show you many more. People don't know. You see, this is not the first time that organizational aspects are taking place in the NDC. There was the Obeta Samuel Committee each year. I was a member. We went around this country when we went to opposition in 2000 on reorganization. A report was done. Recommendations were made. I don't know how many of them were implemented. Kam Kwesi Boche's committee, detailed recommendations were made. I don't know how many of them. And holding a party office is one of succession and continuity. People are asking, you are going for another round or a third round of reorganization of the party. Can you tell us what has happened since the Obeta Samuel's reorganization, the Kwesi Boche's recommendations? How many of them have you implemented? For all you know, it is a failure, possible failure, of implementing those recommendations that you find yourself needing to have another reorganization. This is the context.
Dr. Benjamin Kumbo there. Some members of the party have since demanded that the party releases the data. This has not been done. Member of the NDC Council of Elders again, Dr. Benjamin Kumbo, says the party, if this continues, risks running into a credibility problem.
I can say for sure that I have not received a copy of what the actual election figures are, which is the subject of our election petition. I have not seen it.
Should they have gone to court? Oh, sorry, go on.
Some people tell me that those figures exist. I've heard some office holders in the party say, and I say, a social democratic party. You have this information you are sitting with. What prevents you from putting it out there? What prevents you from making it available to the grassroots so that some of us stop being harassed?
Should they have gone? Most importantly, should they have gone to court? Should they have produced that in court as part of the case?
As for litigation, you go to court for a number of reasons. You go to court to win the case and get a reversal of what you think is an offensive conduct. You also go to court as a conversation with the public on what you perceive to be a wrong conduct.
That's Dr. Benjamin Kumbo there. Well, Ben Efsin doubts that these calls will amount to much. He was speaking on Prime Morning on the Joy Prime TV.
The cadres group must understand that given the age dynamics over the years, the influence of the cadres group has dwindled. That yesterday I heard a member of the Council of Elders, Dr. Ben Kumbo, with Evans, that he hasn't even seen a copy of the NDC's result sheet and so on. If the late ex-President Rawlings, may he rest in peace, was he gave birth to cadres to give rise to NDC. Even when he was alive, it was kind of difficult for the cadres to reassess themselves. So if this is an attempt to try and reassess themselves, I'm sorry, to be pouring water and rock to try and germinate seeds.
Ulster Ben Efsin there. Now, the race for flag bearer for the governing New Patriotic Party for the next election is also gathering momentum, with analysts tipping Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and Trade Minister Alan Kyerematen as key candidates. But the veteran journalist had an interesting suggestion.
Alan had not done himself good in his political career. He should have gone to Parliament. He hasn't done himself any good. And, you know, Alan was at the peak in 2008 when he was contesting Akufo-Addo. That's 13 years. If you're 20 years now, you're 7 years at that time. If you're 25, you were 12 years. So it will be dicey. I suspect, given it is early days yet, but given the tempo and the way it is going, in the end, they may have to perhaps find a compromise candidate.
Outside the two of?
Outside, because it will be dirty. I mean, clearly, Bawumia has worked harder within the politics of, you know, the late Vice President Aliyu Mahama was a bit laid back. He wasn't too much involved. Bawumia has been with Akufo-Addo from 2008, 2012. So he had worked harder and ingrained himself within the politics. And Alan, you know, I mean, definitely between the campaign, there's going to be done a lot of mud.
A new report to be launched tomorrow has revealed that the official telephone lines, email systems of over 70% of education sector institutions do not function. The Open Governance Index, which focuses on Ghana's education sector, identifies institutions with the biggest public sector budget, including the Ministry of Education, the National Service Secretariat, the GET Fund, among others, as those falling short of transparent and accountable interaction with the public. Some, the report says, have obsolete websites with only historic data, some updated once a year. Many of these institutions have no published annual performance report. Ahead of the launch tomorrow, we speak to the authors, the Africa Education Watch. Kofi Asare is the executive director. He's joining me on Zoom. Mr. Asare, good afternoon. I've seen a copy of your document, but quite frankly, not the finest of the details. So let's begin with what you set out to achieve with this particular work that you did, first of all.
Well, good afternoon to your cherished audience. The Open Governance Index report is actually an initiative of Africa Education Watch to support the promotion of the adoption of open governance standards in the education sector of Ghana. Within the context of Ghana's right to information and global best practices in public sector governance, it is our objective to ensure that the institutions of state operating in the education sector adapt standards that opens them up for engagement with the outside world, and more especially the citizenry. So there are 10 indicators that we used in assessing the level of compliance to open governance standards in these institutions. We're talking about the existence of a website, the functioning or the regular updating of the website, existence of social media handles, bearing in mind that there are about 3 billion social media users on Twitter and Facebook alone. And then also the existence of a system for updating such social media handles, existence of verified handles, existence of telephone lines, official telephone lines on their website, and then the functioning of these official telephone lines together with emails, email systems. And then finally, on this website, the existence of critical information regarding the activities and operations, and also the mandate of these institutions, related policies and laws, and strategy documents. So these were the 10 indicators that we ranked the 19 institutions in the sector, including the ministry, on during the period of data collection in February and then in March of this year.
Interesting. Let's take a look at a summary of what you found. I've just mentioned a few of those that's captured in your executive summary. But walk us through how serious the issue of lack of this open governance is in these institutions that you've studied.
Well, basically, we are moving from a culture of institutions being secretive and, more positioned impulsively towards non-disclosure of information to an era of institutions rather disclosing information and having non-disclosure being an exemption. But it's been, it's been a thorny walk, bearing in mind where we are coming from in the past 25 years of our democracy. Having said that, only one institution in the education sector, for instance, responded to email tests that were sent to them. Apart from UNESCO Ghana, no institution responded to emails that were sent to them over a period of 3 weeks. It is as serious as about 70% of institutions not having their telephone systems working. An institution like GetFund, which controls funds bigger than other ministries, did not have a functioning telephone line. Over the 3-week period of data collection, the line was not responsive. On their website, there is no performance. There's no performance report, no relevant documents pertaining to their operations and all that. If you go to an institution like the Center for National Distance Learning and Open Schools, supposed to be an agency responsible for coordinating the delivery of open schooling, virtual learning, it doesn't even have a website. It doesn't have a website. And so for us, the Ministry of Education being the mother ministry that is responsible for ensuring that these agencies adopt open governance standards in their administration operations, itself does not have a functioning telephone line. If you go to the Ministry of Education's website, you click on certain tabs and it's unresponsive. The website hasn't been updated for quite some time now, and it contains absolutely no information about their reports, sector performance reports, MS data, strategic plans, policies, everything zero. The telephone line there doesn't even work. Email addresses do not work. And so it looks as if it is a general challenge. However, institutions like UNESCO Ghana, like the National Schools Inspectorate Authority, like CODVET, now Ghana TVET Commission, did remarkably well, scored between 7 and 9 points on the out of the possible of 10 points, in that they had functioning websites, their telephone lines were responsive, even though their social media handles were not verified and were not regularly updated. The Ghana Education Service also did well on the social media front. It happened to be the only institution with a verified Facebook account or social media account among the 19. Let me indicate the issue about verification. WAEC is one of the agencies of the Education Ministry. WAEC, because it does not have a verified social media account, and all the other 18 do not have verified social media accounts. WAEC alone, if you search on Facebook, you'll find that there are 10 different Facebook pages claiming to be WAEC. Everybody issuing their own information and rogues taking over and using it to do their own business, just because there is no verified Facebook account for WAEC. And so that is how the absence of verified social media accounts, by most of the agencies, indeed by almost all but one of the agencies, is contributing towards, institutional incredibility within the education sector. Interesting.
WAEC alone has 10 unverified Facebook accounts, so you don't even know who are behind these accounts, I suppose.
You wouldn't know which is the right one, because they're all using the same logos and the same. Everybody is looking genuine, so you would know which is the original one exactly.
Yeah. I suppose that what we lose as a country in the sector, in the absence of these things that you've highlighted, are inherent, because that was what I was going to ask you, my last but one question. If you could highlight for me maybe the 5 key things that we are losing in our sector, in our educational sector, with the lack of the things that you have highlighted in your report, what would they be?
The most important thing is that as citizens, we have an obligation to hold our government accountable. It is a duty of a democratic citizen to demand accountability from their government after they have paid taxes. Now, these taxes are used to run the society through the provision of public services, including education service. And so if we pay our taxes, we require critical information from the same government to be able to play our role as accountability agents. Right. Without information, that particular citizen's responsibility cannot be exacted or cannot be performed. That is one. Second is this. Because of the lack of communication lines between GES, between certain agencies at the district level, national level, and their staff or citizens, one will have to travel from Navrongo to the Ministry of Education to access information that should have been ordinarily online. And so it affects man hours. If one is a teacher, that person will not go to school today because they are following a certain promotion. They want to get the updates. Phones are not working. No one is talking, and you need to travel and abandon their classrooms, come all the way to access information. Yeah. Apart from that, we all know the issue of WAEC. I mentioned that because of that, people who have been imposters have taken over WAEC and using WAEC's own Facebook page to sell Apo. As if WAEC is the one actually selling them. It's because of the lack of a verified or credible social media presence. Fourth is this. We are in a global world. We're in a global society. It makes information accessed by partners who are outside Ghana challenging in respect of our education sector and our performance. And lastly, if you study carefully the quantum of investment we make into agencies like GetFund manages billions of cedis a year, only to be told that there is no report to be shared with the Ghanaian public in respect of their performance, in respect of scholarships they awarded, who it went to, how they were. There is nothing like that on the website. Then it means that we are actually not operating a democratic. We are not operating our institutions democratically as we ought to be. And so the lack of these mechanisms has created a situation where information access is constricted, it's restricted, and one needs to always be innovative, quote unquote, use non-conventional means to access information that ordinarily ought to have been available for them to undertake their activities. And so this is how the lack of public interface, the lack of conformity to open governance standards affects the work of CSOs, affects the work of media, and also affects the daily lives of citizenry in Ghana.
Well, Kofi, I wish you all the best tomorrow for the launch of this document, and we'll see what subsequent actions will follow in terms of correcting some of these things that you've highlighted. Thank you very much. Kofi Asare is Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch. Now, traditional authorities of New Ayoma in the Jasekan district of the Oti region are lamenting the dilapidated state of the New Ayoma JHS classroom block. According to them, the situation is affecting academic activities as school automatically closes when clouds gather for rainfall due to the leaking roofs. The school also lacks furniture. This has compelled some pupils to sit on stones and benches and write in books placed on their laps or the ground. Fred Kwame Asare reports.
The new Ayoma Junior High School A, established about a century ago, has never seen any renovation works. The 4-unit classroom block is fast deteriorating and almost becoming a death trap. The roofing has completely damaged, with several sections leaking when it rains. Academic activities are often disrupted during the rainy season. Some of the students lamented the situation.
The damage of the roofing sheets is affecting us very, very bad. Sometimes when we are in the class and it is about to rain, because of the damage of the roofing sheets, the teachers have to close us. That's very, very bad.
The whole roofing sheet is damaged and is stepping our studies a lot, because even if it's not yet time for us to close and it wants to rain, we have to close because our roofing sheet is not good.
The school's Parents Teachers Association began replacing the damaged roofing sheets but had to truncate the project due to lack of funds. The Junior High School A classroom, which has its roofing changed, serves as a shelter for the entire school when it is raining during contact hours. Gabriel Agble is the PTA Vice Chairman.
So we contributed and then started roofing the building. But the way things are, we were not able to finish up because during the COVID, most of the parents too and then the children were not in school, so we don't have much money again to complete it.
I am a native of New Ayoma, and this is where I started my school from kindergarten up to old middle school form 4. And I completed in 1980. For some time now, when I visit home, I could see that the building is deteriorating. When it is raining time, in fact, you come here, you feel pity for the students. And even when you get to the classrooms too, some of the roofings were washed off. And you can even see the sky when you are in the room. So the PTA waited and it becomes their problem. So they have taken it up to roof it. But the way the condition is not for roofing alone. We have to renovate the whole place to come to a standard so that the students also will feel free and the teachers also will feel free and teach, and the students also can learn and learn well. So we start making efforts, applying to the District Assembly, Ghana Education Service, and some embassies to assist. Finally, we have to apply to America Embassy. That is Ambassador Self-Help. And the reply they gave us was because of the COVID, they could not take more projects.
The school, with a student population of about 250, is also faced with the lack of furniture. Parents who can afford provide tables and chairs for their children, while those from deprived homes are left to their fate. These underprivileged pupils end up sitting on stones during studies. Others sit on tables or benches while they write in books placed on their laps. This sitting posture may affect their spines and hurt their health as they strive to achieve academic excellence in a congested classroom.
In the class, we are too much in the class, but according to the COVID-19 protocols, they say we should not be more than 30. But here, we are even more than 50-something in one class, and we are also not having desks to sit on. So we somehow pair, some if you're not having chair and table on your own to bring to the school, you have to come, either you stand or you pair with your friends. And it's really affecting our study.
Traditional authorities are worried about the development since it impedes the education of these young ones. The assembly member for the New Ayoma electoral area, Adeleke Benjamin, indicated that several attempts to get relevant institutions to renovate the structure have proved futile.
New Ayoma JSSA school here. It's a very old school that has helped a lot of people in this community. Most graduates that we have from this community and beyond attending this very school here. But unfortunately, the school is deteriorating. The buildings, everything, they are all old and dilapidated. And the community tries so much to fall on our politicians, the DCs and the MPs to assist the school. But please, nothing is forthcoming.
It is the hope of the community and the peoples that the classroom would be renovated to provide a conducive environment for academic activities. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, New Ayoma.
Health experts are urging that the country's COVID-19 vaccination drive is sustained, as any delays in the process could derail gains made in reaching herd immunity. This comes as they say 90% of the country's population is still at risk of contracting a third wave of the virus if they are not vaccinated in the next 2 to 3 weeks. As of April 15, a little over 750,000 Ghanaians had received the COVID-19 vaccines. This number, according to health experts, is of concern as it represents only about 5% of the entire population. Speaking on the AM show, member of the COVID-19 team at the University of Ghana Medical Center, Dr. Chris Owu, said the vaccination drive must be sped up.
Developed, not necessarily by vaccination during that period of time, but give them 3 months. That immunity is going to wane. And we know that already of this virus. We know categorically that the natural immunity hardly ever lasts more than 3 months. We've not done 3 months from the peak of our second wave. The peak of our second wave was at the end of February and up to the end of middle of March. We are basically roughly a month from the peak of our February. Majority of those who got infected and thankfully did not die may still have natural immunity at the moment, even if they were not vaccinated.
Right.
And that coupled with the population that have been vaccinated. But let's be clear, 750,000 of our population is actually not up to 10% of our population. It's roughly about 5% of our population. So we still have significantly more than 90% of our population that is at risk of basically getting a third wave if they are not vaccinated. And that's why yes, we are doing much better than most other African countries. Right. We need to do a lot better with vaccination.
Okay.
But
Dr. if I may
really
just
know whether this wave, we do not have a third wave. We are not where we should actually be expecting to see that we are not going to have an infection again. And that means we have that period of the next 1 to 2 months to have a significant critical population like the UK had, like Israel had, that is differentiating them from what is happening in Europe at the moment.
Okay, so we are not where we ought to be, but would you have expected by this point in time that we would have vaccinated more people? In terms of this vaccination drive, barring what has happened in different parts of the world and access to vaccines, would you have expected that would have vaccinated many more Ghanaians as of this point in time?
Actually, with respect to the vaccines that we have been able to procure, I think we've done quite well with administering vaccine to arms. But we need to be aware that basically everybody is getting vaccine from almost the same sources now. This is not like an African epidemic like the other epidemics we've had, where the rest of the world can be producing and then we can go procure or beg for them. This actually, most of the places that we can procure, even if we were buying the vaccines, are actually in trouble at the moment. Significant one being India. We can see what's happening in India now. India is actually the worst hit in the world at the moment, with over 200,000 cases a day. So the dynamics are changing day by day. A month ago, when we were basically starting off the first dose of our vaccine, India was not in the trouble it is at the moment. So we could make projections as to how much vaccines we could get, how much vaccines we could get from Europe, from Russia and the other places. But during that period of time, things have evolved. So things may change. And that is the reality of any viral epidemic.
Also on the show was Dr. Michael Owusu of KCCR, who revealed that 700 variants of the COVID-19 virus have been detected worldwide, but only 5 of them are of concern. He, however, warns if the current situation is not well managed, the dormant variants would become prominent and difficult to deal with.
Currently, we are doing a positivity rate of something between 5 to 10%. In our center, for instance, for the past close to 3 to 4 weeks, we are recording between 5 to 10 cases for every 100 runs that we do. This is much lower compared to what we did somewhere in January, February, and towards the latter part of March. We were recording between 40 to 60 cases out of every 100 cases that came to our facility. So clearly, you will see that we are really in the decline phase, and the virus prevalence is down. And this is the natural behavior of the virus. What happens is that we went through the first wave where we hit a peak of close to about 700 somewhere in the month of June, July, and August. That was in 2020. This particular year, once again, we also went up something between 800, 700, 800, somewhere in the month of February. And then it went down to where we are now. So it's not too clear, but it's likely that if we don't manage this well and don't still stick to our protocols, we may likely enter into a third wave, because we still have a lot of susceptible populations around. Many people either still have not been infected, or even for those that have been infected, in a couple of 3 months to maybe 4 months, it's likely that immunity will wane and they will become susceptible once again to infection. So far as you have susceptible populations there, you will still continue to have the rise and then the downfall of this virus. It will just go up and down until if you succeed in getting the vaccine, then you can really get it out of your system. But if you don't have a vaccine, then you are only waiting for the next epidemic to also happen, which will also go through its own cycle, hit another peak, and then go down. So for now, things looks better, things looks well, but it depends on how we respond. If we respond well, we can keep it at this level whilst we manage other things like vaccine. But if we just lose our guts, we may enter into a third wave that may be more severe than what we experienced in January, February. The system is learning to adapt, it's learning to mutate, it's learning to change its form and its nature. So as we wait for other interventions like vaccines and we don't manage things well, then of course a stronger form of these viruses may come up. And when they come up, they may contribute to more damage like we used to know. So it is more of, we have to be careful and then manage this in a situation in a way that we don't allow it to cause damage and destroy us. New strains and new variants, they are always coming up. I think to date we have close to over 700 different variants in the world, which are always coming up in different lineages. We have the A lineage, the B lineage, which are almost different forms coming up every single day that samples are sequenced. But what is most important is whether they are variants of concern. And there's a definition for what we mean by a variant of concern. The ability of the virus to have an important public health role, a public health impact, whether one is able to cause, whether it is able to cause severe disease.
Dr. Owusu is with the KCC. And that's it this hour. We have sports. Gary L. Smith is standing by.
In studio with me, Hans Mensando, and also joining via Zoom, Oriku Ampofo, just so that we can quickly, in as short a time as possible, delve into it. So, Hans, you first in studio. I mean, we've had lots of reactions from across the divide. What have you made from the latest reactions that have come today?
Two arguments. There's a moral argument, and then there's what is likely to pan out in court, the legal side of the whole issue. But for me, where I stand is this. Look, we have to admit one thing. Football is about money these days. It's a business. The clubs want to cash in. Sponsors want to cash in. Even the fans, who have been touted as the most important of the stakeholders,
are trying to cash in through what? Sports betting. We see where people are putting their money in midweek during Champions League matches, on weekends during Premier League matches. It's all about money on every single level, okay? Now, Perez makes a very important point, and I have to agree with him. People want to see the best teams play on a regular basis. Look, in boxing, the argument these days is that the best fighters are not facing each other and that the top fighters are avoiding one another. Why should it happen in football? I want to see the top teams play. Manchester United played in the Champions League this season, and they are playing against Istanbul, Başakşehir, and RB Leipzig. What happened to Manchester United and Barcelona, Manchester United, Real Madrid? Those are the games that people want to see. But then again, you allow these plans to go on, and they say that the smaller teams are going to suffer. Well, I mean, in business, everybody looks out for his own interest. If we agree that it's business, if we agree that it's about money, then everybody has to look out for his own interest. I don't know any other industry that says that, well, the big boys in this industry are going to support the smaller ones in that industry. Football is business. Everybody's looking for money in there, to the extent that even the fans are looking beyond just the pleasure that it gives them from their team winning matches and are going into betting. You can't really fault these clubs for looking for more money.
Nice one. Oreku, you have also followed all the reaction that has come. The strongest, perhaps, from Pep Guardiola, who has ripped into the structure from beginning to end and has even questioned the very basis of the formation of this Super League. He's asking a key question. Why is it that Ajax, who have 4 Champions League titles, have not been invited? And he's suggesting that there's a sinister motive. Your thoughts on everything?
Well, yeah, I think that, you know, the whole phrase of trying to bring competitive football is just acting as a face mask to cover the real motive behind this, and that's to make money. The reason why Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur are there ahead of clubs like Ajax is because these teams do have more fans, and in effect, fans become money, because when you're selling TV rights, you want to, you know, sell more to whoever brings in the more eyeballs. So I think, in effect, the founding members, that's the 12 teams that we have so far, are just basically the teams with the most fans in the world currently as we speak.
Yeah.
And if they do put their power together, they can have close to 2 billion people watching this league, and that could translate into money. And so I think that's the whole motive behind it. But I understand Hans' point that everyone is looking out for himself. But, you know, the beauty of football is the fact that a mid-table team can have that hope of breaking into the elite club. You know, if you go back 15, 16, 17 years ago, Chelsea never belonged to this club. And if they were putting together a Super League, there wouldn't have been any Chelsea or Manchester City. And, you know, it's that hope of being able to climb up that has led to City and Chelsea becoming big clubs. 10, 12 years from now, who knows, Leicester could become a big club and get enough fans. If you do cancel that possibility, we're stuck in a static world where, you know, we get to watch the same type of matches every year. And in effect, in the next 10 years, nobody's going to eagerly anticipate a match between Manchester United and Real Madrid, because we would have watched it over 20 times already.
Yeah.
And so it might lose a lot of value, but I don't think long-term is going to help. Short-term, it could have helped in terms of making fans. But long-term, I don't think this is the way.
Right, Hans, I'm told we have just about a minute and a half to go.
I don't think they've denied that this is about money. I mean, they've made it clear. If you look at the clubs involved in this, they're all in debt. I mean, if you look at Manchester United's debt percentage against, you know, their earnings, about 16%. You have some 6%, some 8% and the likes. So what they've made clear is the fact that they need more money. That is not in doubt. How do we make more money? Is by playing regularly among ourselves. But I also think that once the competition kickstarts, I think that they are going to open it up to a certain you know, caliber of clubs. Ajax, I think, are one of the clubs that would eventually be considered. I am all for it. You see, I don't want UEFA or any other football governing body holding a monopoly over competition. That I don't want. I think that people or other entities should be able to establish competitions within the realms of football.
Right. Oreku, final 15 seconds. Do you think the Super League will happen?
We've come close. 2009, we came close. 2014, we came close. 2016, we came close. This time, I think it would happen. And that's because key members have resigned from the ECA, that's the European Club Association, and they already have a financier, and they already have someone in there that does on to pay the TV rights. So I think too many substantive steps have been taken to go back now.
That is seeming to be the perception we are getting out there, but it will be something if some of the clubs, like we are hearing Chelsea and Man City, want to pull out. If it happens, that will be something else. Hans, thank you very much. You've kept it very succinct for us. Oriku as well, keeping it very tight and to the point. That's the sport for now. I'm Gary Alsmith. There'll be more on radio and also myjoyonline.com.
What we do, let's talk showbiz at this point, but there is more news at myjoyonline.com. You can log on and click on our stories. We have the links through which you can share the stories with your contacts as well. NDC suspects doctoring of Techiman South election summary sheets. That's a story you can click on and take a look at. We also have Benjamin Kumbo there. Do share with your contacts. My name is Gifty Ando Apia.